All right, so we're done with this. Oh, Jennifer, you have a question.
Yes, why does it have pound signs in the total section?
Oh, she has a bunch of hashtags right here. So let me just show you. If for some reason, if you have a bunch of symbols that look like that, it's just simply because you don't have enough space to display it. Don't freak out. What you can do is you can either zoom in or zoom out if you want to, or we're going to learn in a second here how to change the width of the column. So if you see hashtags, it just means that there's not enough display area for the computer to show you what you've put there. So I will answer that question very shortly here. So we actually just did the totals as it relates to the columns. And now what we need to do is we need to put the totals as they relate to the rows. So we're going to go ahead and navigate up here. Once again, you can navigate with your mouse, or I actually in Excel love my keyboard. I love the arrow keys. It's like my favorite thing. Now notice, Gabby, you thought this was magical last time. It grabbed all the numbers above. This time, if I hit Sigma, it goes, whoosh, yeah, it grabs all the way over. It looks either up or to the left and sees which set it could probably go. I think it defaults up. If there's numbers above and numbers to the left, it'll default up. But there we go. And notice as soon as I hit enter there, what did it do down here? It started doing the auto sum. And I can do the exact same copying where I come over here and I grab this bottom right, and as I click on it and drag it down, it will tally up.
Drag it down.
You gotta click and hold, drag it down. What? Didn't work?
No, it worked.
Okay, good. I was gonna say another example of user error. Now we've gotten this far, and I would always recommend that we don't wait till this moment. I usually save right off the bat, but let's go ahead and save. And we remember from Word we can save with what keyboard shortcut? Control S, or the disk. Yes. And I'm going to put this on the desktop so I can delete it because I've only done it 5,000 times. We're going to call this one the Save. Gotta click in here. Save Sable River Foundation. Enter. Book 1, yeah. You can
just take the title like Word does.
You know, it does sometimes. I don't know why it didn't this time. That's a good question.
I'm froze.
You're froze?
Yeah.
It's not that chilly.
So funny guy.
All right, so we got that saved. Once again, Excel is also doing an auto save for us every 10 minutes. What a wonderful program. Everybody say thank you, Excel.
Thank you.
Exactly. Now, we've put this information together, but this is kind of blah. If you turn this in and you work for me, I'd be mad. I would. I'd be like, really? That's what you're going to give me? It'll take you 2 seconds to figure this out and make it look pretty for me, and you won't do that? So we don't want to be insulting to someone. We're going to figure out how to do this. The first tool that we're going to learn about is actually, we're going to do the second tool first. We're going to skip the way the book says this. But if we go up to A1, once again, this is where we see people doing ghetto Excel, where they're like, I want to center this thing. So what am I going to do? I'm going to cut it. I'm going to paste it like here. Yeah, that looks about right. No, I probably need to come back here. And now I'm going to go in here. Because it's not perfectly centered, I'm going to hit space. Like, yeah, no, I need to go back. You know, you get the idea. Like, that's not how we want to center anything in Excel. And Excel is difficult because we're going to be changing all the column widths. So we don't really know what it's going to be like. So if we just start right here, and once again, if we wanted to select something in Word, what key would we hold down?
Control.
Shift. Shift. So if I hold my Shift key down and I hit my right arrow all the way over to H, because that would be the complete width of what I wanted to have here, and I went up to this little funky button right here, right in the middle. It's the E. Oh yeah, you guys can't. Yeah, it's merge and center. Merge and center. Now that's important that it's merge and center. Okay, because it's not only gonna center our text, but it combines A through H. So we get 8 cells, it makes them one, and then centers everything in it. Christine, question.
Ours says merge and center. Oh.
Mine does also, but you can't really read it.
I was gonna say we just can't read it, right?
Oh yeah, you know what? It's because my display is actually at a different format.
Right.
Because it's shrunk for the projector.
I just figured that out. Yours is shrunk.
Yeah, but yours should say merge and center. So now, if we go to cell A2, okay, if we go there and we hold the Shift key down, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to highlight all the way over to H2, Shift key,
Right. And then you come up here.
and then you're going to hit merge and center, once again up here.
And hit the merge center.
Good? So we've centered those two things. And now we want to make this look like a title. Now once again, we can spend all day making things look like a title. Or, because we learned this in the last one, we were given styles before. Why don't we click this cell styles up here? And they have pre-done styles for us. So we can just click title. That's great. Instantly change the color, change the font, change the size. And we have a good looking thing. Now there's a theme that goes with this. So the theme will match. If we use styles from that same style drawer, all these things should look relatively similar as long as we stick with them, right? So down here we could go through, and I think the book has us do a bold and underline and all this kind of stuff. We're not going to do that. We're just going to pick heading 4. I like that. Cell styles, pick heading 4. And it kind of changes the font, changes the color. Now if I want to change a lot of things at once, I'm going to highlight from A3, hold the shift key down, hit my right arrow over to H3. What I'd like to do,
He did the same thing.
A3, you're going to be there, you're going to hold shift, you're going to right arrow all the way over to H3. And you're telling you seem to be using your mouse. You can use your mouse, but I'm just going to say a mouse is really hard, in my opinion, to use in Excel. Sometimes it's the only way to do it, but I think like for doing rows, it gets really weird because you start grabbing the top row and everything. Anyway, just so you know. And if you're using a mouse, you don't have to hold the shift key. So let me just show you that as long as we're here. I can click H3 and just drag across, and it grabs all of them. Click and hold. So if you just click like A3 and pull across, it'll grab all of them. You don't have to hold the shift key.
Now what was the other one?
Shift and the arrows. Now in here, if we want to center each of these, what are we going to hit? You know what? Control E doesn't work.
You want to center them?
We don't want to merge and center this time. We just want to use the center. It would be Control E if they let us use it, but they took away that shortcut key. So we're just going to click that center one right here under alignment. Great. And then we want to make this whole row look different. So I'm going to go ahead and pick heading 3 because it gives me a nice line underneath it. So it'll look decent. Gives me a little separation, as you can see here, between my text. Don't worry that the text is touching right now. We're going to fix that in a minute. Great. So if you're following along in the book, we're on page 31 right now. Actually, page 30. So now down here, a total column in accounting. Whenever we're using numbers, we should always finish a total with a line and a double line. That means it's calculated and I'm done doing a tabulation. So we're going to hold this shift key down. We're going to highlight this whole line. And we're going to do a cell style of a total right here. It gives us an automatic one. It's hard to see up on the screen because the projector is bad, but this is a double line down below and a single
What was
line.
your, what did you pick?
I picked the total style. Highlight, and I just went up to cell styles and pick totals.
Okay. And did you bold it?
No, it does all of it on its own.
Oh, okay.
So that was all part of that one.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Now, we want to talk about, if I handed this in, I want her to know I'm talking about dollars, not people, or something like that, right? So we want to make sure we go to B4. So you're going to be in column B, or section B4, cell B4. Sorry, let me put my cursor over there, right here. And I'm going to hold shift, and once again, I'm going to highlight just from B4 to H4. So I have this first row of numbers. And we want to format this number into an accounting dollar sign. So we have this really cool feature up here where it says numbers up at the top. And as part of that, there's a dollar sign right there. If we click it, what this does automatically is it gives us a dollar sign, a comma, 2 decimal places, and it's beautiful that way, right? And notice I have the hashtags. Don't worry about it. If you have any kind of pound signs, we'll get to that in a second. The numbers are still there. Yeah, don't you love that? You don't have to do anything else. We're going to do the same to this next one. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so we can actually see everything. I'm going to highlight this whole bottom numbers also where the totals are. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to hit that same dollar sign. Automatically gives it to us.
We can't just drag it down.
No, you can do that.
You mean drag the dollar sign down here?
No, the formula.
No. You don't want the formula because this is the formula. Like if you did it to this one, you drug it across, that would be fine. But after the fact, if you've already done all the formulas, you can come in and just, what we're doing now is formatting. So we're just making certain cells look like something. Good question though. Now in the center, I'm going to do this. Don't everybody else do this. I'm going to highlight everything, and I'm going to hit my dollar sign. Does anybody see a problem with this? It just gets cumbersome. There's a lot of dollar signs. So it's just like etiquette. We don't do that because there's too much going on the page. What we're going to use is the one just to the right of that called comma style. It's right here. We click comma. Notice now we have a nice clean line. We see that it starts in dollars, it ends in dollars, but in between we just have numbers with commas and 2 decimal places. That does look good, doesn't it? It's starting to look like something you'd be proud to turn in, right? I love that. So we did our accounting format. Now, we do have a problem here. And the problem starts off with like Chamber City on mine. If I hadn't have moved this one to demonstrate it, I think for Jennifer, then it would be automatically resizing. But because I did resize it, it thinks that I want to keep it exactly where it was. So we have a couple different ways to resize our columns. The first way is you have to move up in between like the 2 letters like C and D, and I get this new little indicator here. I click and hold it and I can drag it. You can notice there's a number up there that appears, but as I drag it, it makes it bigger and smaller. So I'm actually going to make mine smaller, and I still have hashtags because there's stuff in there that it can't display. My favorite way to get this done quickly is just to double tap in between, and it automatically sizes it so anything that's in there will automatically be fitting. Does that make sense? So watch, in between A and B, you just double tap right there and it pops that whole column out.
Which I love to learn, by the way.
It's a great feature, isn't it?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's a good little tip.
Last night I was like,
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So it really, and what I love to tell everybody about this class is it doesn't take much effort if you use the tools that are in here to make an incredible looking spreadsheet very quickly. I mean, you could spend an extra 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes and format something, and it looks way better than what a lot of people do because they just don't know these little tips. So this is an important thing here to learn these cell styles and just how to use the right number formats. Okay, the next big thing that we have to understand is that there is a huge difference in Excel between data and information. And we have no computer majors in here, but can anybody give me a guess on what is the difference between data and information?
Data builds up the processes, such as the background, the data stream, and the numbers, where information is actually knowledge.
Okay, good. Raw numbers and information would be something that we've done with raw numbers. Now, I'm telling you that because Excel hates it when we try to build charts or do things mixing data and information. Those two things do not mix when we want to build a chart. So on this, what would we consider data and what would we consider information on this spreadsheet we've done so far?
Data is the numbers.
Information is the what? No, I couldn't hear you. No. Good guess though.
Data is the numbers that you input. Information is the outcome.
Yes. Data is the stuff we've put in. So I'm going to highlight this whole section here. This is the stuff we put in. I would consider this data. Everything outside of it, to the bottom and to the right, this is information. It's something we've taken data, done something with it, and now it's become information. Now, if I was to sit here and say, Jerry, tell me which town made the most money on fun runs? 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Wrong answer. If I was to say, Jennifer, she got nervous right when I said it. Jennifer, which activity made us the most money? 1, 2, 3.
Direct mail.
Okay, direct mail. Did she get it? Oh, yeah. Oh, she was wrong. Okay, she was wrong. The point is, we're still looking at this, and even though we've created information out of it, it's still kind of cumbersome to the human person. You know, we have to sit down, we have to look at it and go, man, let's see, which one made the most in the fun run? I have to think about it and go, oh, Chamber City. Yeah, I think it was Chamber City. Yeah, it was Chamber City. You know, we have to sit here and like interpret what's going on. What we can do to make this easier, and if I'm a boss, I don't want to sit here and translate what you've done for me. I I want this to be easy. I want this to be something that makes sense to me really quick. We are visual people, and that's what charts come in for. Charts make it really easy to get a lot of information very quickly in a picture format. So watch what we're going to do here. We're going to go up and we're going to highlight only the data. Do not mix data and information. It will throw off a chart every time. Okay? There's very few, very rare instances that you would put data and information into the same chart. But I'm going to highlight it by holding my shift key down and going over to the right and then down. And we're going to come up and we're going to do an insert up here at the top column. And we're going to insert a graph or a chart, excuse me. I'm going to use a column chart because that's what the book calls for. And I'm going to come down and use this cylinder chart right here, this clustered cylinder. Okay? Notice, without touching a thing, I just clicked a button, it's now built me an incredible chart. I think this is pretty darn good. Okay? Now we're going to move this chart. You can't grab what's in here. This is a big thing that a lot of people mess up. They'll grab it and they'll start trying to move. They're like, why doesn't it move? You've highlighted this in here. You have to grab the outside of the chart, like the frame. Come down here. Now yesterday we learned, or last week we learned about sizing handles, right? What do we call the sizing handles that are on the right? What kind of sizing handles? You remember?
This is on the test.
Destructive. What do we call these corner ones? Non-destructive, right? But they're sizing handles. There's a different rule when it applies to charts than it applies to pictures. If we're using a chart, destructive handles are like our favorite things on the planet because we get this little mini-me chart, we drag it out to about right here, and now that chart has been skewed. The words don't get skewed because Excel takes care of where all the words go, but we have this incredible, now it's a lot easier to read because they're not skinny little lines. And if I was to say, Jerry, which town made the most money on corporate donations? You'd tell me? It's real easy now, right? We can find these things very quickly because our eyes don't have to process the numbers. They can just, oh, it's blue. The tallest blue line is that one. You know, it's very quick. We can go through and figure out all these things. So this becomes very powerful for the end user because instead of having to sit there and do math and try and figure out what number is what, it's just right there, really quick and easy. They can do some great diagnostics with this. Any questions about that? It is pretty awesome. Now, I do want to point out, and I do not believe the book goes totally into this, so I just want to say we can change. In fact, I could probably teach an entire week on charts themselves, okay? And we don't go into it that much. I would recommend 9 times out of 10, you're just going to use a default chart. But if I want, so moving on, but we can change anything in here. Like if I click on this corporate area and I right mouse click it and I say format my legend, notice that I even have this bar come up. I can hit bold and my font bolds, I can actually increase the font size, makes it bigger. My point is we can change anything in this chart that we want. And like I literally could probably teach a week of this kind of a class. We can totally modify it. One of the things that I found is most useful is if you come over here to the actual columns, if you right mouse click on it and you add data labels, it will put the number that corresponds with it. It's not necessarily wonderful in this one, but like in a pie chart, I usually add data labels because it gives you a number and the picture at the same time. So I'm going to undo that. We can also change, if we click into the chart here, notice that we get our chart tools up at the top right. We can look at design and we can pick all sorts of different things. I actually like this default design. I think it's pretty nice, but if we wanted to make it a little more three-dimensional, we can just pick this other one. Notice the tops now look a little rounder. I like to make my charts, if you take a chart and you make it too 3D, sometimes it gets hard to read. So don't get too fancy when you're doing charts. You know, a little depth is good, a lot of depth is weird. So you just want to be careful on something like that. We can change the different styles. Down here at the bottom, we call these worksheets. Now, all these worksheets together equal a workbook. Exactly. So if we want to change the name of this worksheet, we can just double tap it. We used to have to right mouse click it, but now we can double tap it. And we can call this the Lifetime Fundraising Summary. Enter. And now this is referred to, instead of as sheet 1, but the Lifetime Fundraising Summary. We can always have it referred to down there. We can also change the color of this tab. If we right mouse click it and say tab color, it'll come up, and as we were talking about this morning, it's hard to see. Like I just picked green, I'm going to pick red. Red's easier to see. It's kind of just a fade, so it's really hard to see, but you can see that it is red down there. All right. And let's talk about printing now. I have very, very opinionated views on printing in Excel. So if we hit, what's our shortcut key to print? Control P. Oh, I'm selected. Sorry. If you're selected on your chart only, it will only print your chart. So I'm going to jump off of it. Hit Control P. And now, Gabby, I can't believe you did this to me. You cut off my entire spreadsheet here. My table's all messed up. What would we normally do?
Page layout.
We could make it smaller. We could what?
Change the orientation.
We go backwards. I would change the orientation. The page layout, which would be kind of right here. Down here, page orientation. Instead of portrait, we're going to go landscape. Ta-da! Now we're sideways, but we have that entire chart and table on here. Because it don't matter if you're black or white, as Michael Jackson said. You could actually set it to XPS, and it'll be color. How about that? Does that make you feel better, Cameron? Is that better? No, it's not. So, one of the things I love to do whenever I print these out, just depends on how cheesy it gets, but I like to scale it. I like to zoom in to make sure it fits the whole page. So you can come down to scaling and say you could custom scaling options is what I'm going to go to. And I typically say fit, but I think it won't make it big. Maybe it will. Nope, it didn't. So it didn't change if I clicked fit. So I'm going to go back to my custom scaling, and I'm actually going to increase the size. I think about 10% will do it. Yeah, it looks pretty good. It still isn't centered though. Now, in my office, if you were to bring me in a spreadsheet that I asked you to make me and it wasn't centered, I won't punch you in the face, but I won't have you ever do a spreadsheet for me ever again. It makes me mad, right? Just enrages me. So you could have spent 3 hours making this beautiful spreadsheet, and I'll just simply see that it's not centered, and I'll be like, idiot. Like, just makes me mad. And so, yeah, glad to know. Yes, anybody that makes a spreadsheet for me always knows. So one of the things, this is a hidden feature in 2010. They kind of hid it down here under page setup. You click this, and you go to margins, and right down here, I know this is like finding a Rubik's Cube solution, but this center on page horizontally, I don't even really care about vertically, but horizontal is the one that drives me crazy, and it will make it perfectly centered on the page. And if you wanted to do it vertically, you could click that also. I love that feature though. So don't turn in your stuff if they're supposed to be printed, not centered. Okay, next thing here. We have, I'm just looking at what we got here. If we wanted to just see some basic facts, so we could click print and do that, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go back to home. If we want to see some basic statistics about a group of data, we could highlight just like Allentown here. And you'll notice down at the bottom, it gives us automatically our average, how many numbers are there, and the sum total of them together. So that's just a really nice little feature just to see. We don't have to actually do a formula. It'll actually do that for us down there. If we need to correct something, for instance, let's say Allentown was wrong. We're going to come up here and we're going to click on Allentown, click into that formula bar right here, and then we can delete, we can add another L, we can do whatever changes we want. When we hit enter, we'll go back to normal. Are there any questions about this? This is pretty simple, right? Doesn't seem too difficult.